The Cavs played without Donovan Mitchell in Game 4 last night. His status for Game 5 and beyond still up in the air, according to Chris Fedor of Cleveland.com and some other outlets. Mitchell suffered a calf strain in the closing minutes of Game 3. He finished the game, came out with a minute 13 left, and said immediately something felt wrong. He did not suit up in Game 4. And Jason, do you have any update on his status potentially for Game 5 and beyond?
No, I mean, I don't see how he's going to be ready to play. Typically, you measure calf injuries in weeks, not days. He told me last night after the game that he was dragging his leg up and down the floor in the fourth quarter of Game 3. So, you know, I mean, obviously he's going to do everything he can to play. Obviously, he wants to hold out some hope. But I also think in the back of his head, he's also pretty realistic. He knows. I mean, you know, Giannis missed the entire Bucks postseason, which consisted of one round because of a calf strain. And Kristaps Porzingis has missed the last, I think it's about 2 weeks with the calf strain. And he's just now starting to do some on-court activities, but he's still a ways away. He's not probably going to play in this series at all, even if it extends beyond tomorrow. So, I mean, that just gives you some sort of an idea. I mean, I think Cavs are, you know, 3-4 week injury minimum. And if you aren't careful with it, that can lead to an Achilles, which is even worse. So you really have to be careful with these things. So I don't think he'll be out there. That's just my opinion. That's not sourced at all. That's just looking at the history of calf injuries and how these things go. He's going to do everything he can to play. Obviously, it's an elimination game, but I don't expect to see him out there.
Donovan Mitchell's a warrior, and we've seen him time in and time out this season, Jason, play through some pretty gruesome stuff.
Yeah.
I don't think people understand the severity of the knee injury, which he has been battling through now for the better part of 2 months. I go back to the Kevin Durant calf strain, and this is why I don't think he'll play in Game 5. Right before he tore his Achilles against Toronto in the, was that 2019 NBA Finals, 2018, whatever that was.
19.
He had a calf strain, and he took, I think it was 2 weeks off, and then he rushed back isn't the right word, but he felt good enough, and he was going to try playing on a minutes restriction because it was the finals. And he said, I have to be out there with my team. And I don't remember the exact details. Don't quote me on this, but there was the whole, should he play? Shouldn't he play? The trainers wanted to give him a few more days off. KD said, no, it's the finals. I'm going to play. And next thing you know, he tears his Achilles and misses an entire season. Calf strains are no joke. There are certain injuries, you know, you roll an ankle, you can play through it. You can tweak a hammy, probably not, quad, whatever. We have not seen a good track record of guys having a calf strain and finding a way to play through it with the results being good. And also, another thing to consider, it's the same leg as the knee injury. It's his left leg.
Right.
We already saw his explosiveness decline a bit due to the knee injury. Well, you jump with your calves. And how effective, frankly, could Donovan Mitchell be on a bum knee and a bum calf on his takeoff leg? He's a righty, so his left leg's his takeoff leg. When he's already struggling, and he's played tremendous this series. I'm not saying he's struggling from like an production standpoint, but just an ability to create space standpoint.
Yeah.
You know, he's taken a ton of step back jumpers, which he's been hitting. He's shooting 53.1% from three this series, and Boston's been totally fine giving him these step back jumpers. He's making them with a bum knee, Jason. I just don't know how effective he could be with a bum knee and a bum calf, and with the impending risk of tearing your Achilles or creating further damage to yourself right before the offseason. I would normally say in a playoff series, the reward always outweighs the risk. But down 3-1, that's a really difficult predicament for Donovan and the Cavs to be in right now.
Yeah, I asked him if he felt the knee led to the calf, and he said no, he didn't want to say that. But I mean, you at least have to point it out. It is the same leg, and he's been doing this since the All-Star break. Really, he's been fighting this since the All-Star break. And then obviously his minutes go up in the postseason because of what's at stake. So he's playing heavy minutes on a bad knee. I mean, I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility to think that one may have contributed to the other. I think it's certainly fair to at least pose the question. And it's unfortunate. And he's got to look at, everybody knows his contract situation. He's got one guaranteed year left. You know, if it was another Durant situation, he rushes back and then damages the Achilles, and now he's out all next year, you know, that affects his contract status going into free agency. So I just think you have to be smart about these things. I know he's going to try and play. I know he's going to do everything he can. I was actually surprised that he was at the arena as long as he was last night. I was kind of lingering trying to get him, thinking that he would, when you're in street clothes, usually you leave quick. You're out of there fast. When you don't have any reason to, you're not showering after the game or icing down or anything like that. But he was there quite a while after the game. I can only assume getting treatment on the calf. Like, it's one of those things where it's around the clock treatment, trying to get him ready to go. But I just looking at this logically and realistically and taking the emotion out of it, I just don't see how he can go.
I want to give Donovan credit too. Despite being in street clothes on the bench yesterday, he did not sit down for much of the game. He was in full coach mode, and I'm not sure he gets a paycheck for being an assistant coach, but he certainly was doing everything he could to encourage his guys on the sideline. And as you were talking about his contract situation in his future, it made me think of Tristan McKenzie real quick. And I know it's not apples to apples, but McKenzie was minutes away from signing his extension, has the elbow injury, decides to do rehab, hasn't come back, hasn't been the same Tristan McKenzie yet. And you look at these athletes who are on the precipice and verge of signing these life-changing deals. And Donovan already has a ton of money, but this is another $200 million contract.
Yeah.
When that's, you said it on the show today, when you have $200 million at your feet, you pick it up.
Bend over.
Knowing the injury potential of trying to play through it, God forbid he plays in game 5, tears his Achilles, he's going to miss all of next season. And then what's his contract going to look like at that point? The Cavs may still give him the extension because of who he is and his track record, but that's up in the air. So I just think Donovan, unfortunately, will most likely not play again in this postseason, barring the Cavs going on some kind of unprecedented run, knocking off the Celtics and taking whoever they play in the Eastern Conference Finals to 5 or 6 games. That's more realistic for a timeline for a Mitchell return.
Yeah, and I wrote today in The Athletic, it's very possible he's already played his last game for the Cavs, which is jarring when you think about it. I do think he'll sign the extension. I think he should sign the extension, partly for the reasons we've been talking about here for the last 5 minutes. When you've got injuries like this, probably, they're non-surgical injuries. Probably, I'd imagine the knee, just a rest thing. He just needs to rest the knee over a long summer. And obviously the calf, it's not like it's surgery needed. So these should be relatively minor injuries in the long haul. But still, when you're dealing with injuries like this and you've got a $200 million bag sitting in front of you, bend over and pick it up. Just sign the contract, sign it this summer, and worry about your future, where you want to play down the road. You're not necessarily guaranteeing yourself to 3 or 4 more years in Cleveland. You're guaranteeing yourself to 1 more year, and then you can sort of navigate your future plans beyond that at that point.